If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
My lover dear.
Comrades, fellow Guyanese, 9 years ago, we Guyanese made the final and decisive assertion of our political and psychological independence by completely severing the remaining constitutional links with the colonial power. For us, the coming into being of the Cooperative Republic was the logical culmination of the struggle for independence, initiated over 200 years ago by our national hero, Cuffy, at Magdalenenburg in Berbice. But, as I have always emphasized, political independence is not an end in itself. Rather, it represents an opportunity to create a society in which all citizens are assured of social and economic justice. The People's National Congress at all times recognized that the process of transforming the society, which process will be given new impetus and momentum with the promulgation later this year of the new Constitution, was not going to be an easy task. And
I'm pleased to participate in today's commemoration. Guyana is committed to gaining international reparations for the crime of African enslavement. Reparative justice must not...
Comrades, fellow Guyanese, 9 years ago, we Guyanese made the final and decisive assertion of our political and psychological independence by completely severing the remaining constitutional links with the colonial power. For us, the coming into being of the Cooperative Republic was the logical culmination of the struggle for independence.
Of an existing project, and the replacement of the bridge will have less of an impact on water flow and maritime organisms, etc.
I don't know where to start. I honestly don't know where to start. So many blunders all over. You heard that last clip there, right? I don't know. He was talking about marine time. He was talking about water, and then boom, orgasm. Is it what these guys are thinking? Is it what it's? I don't know. I mean, I know there are lots of there were a couple of folks there in the audience. I saw one female, just one female. The rest a bunch of male, and then there was another individual sitting there by the name of whatever his name is, right? It's another human being. You know what I mean? Another human being. And so Jack Dale looking into the audience, I don't know exactly who he's looking at. Surely when you look at his facial expression and everything, and you look at his eye contact, he wasn't looking at the female when he said this.
Of an existing project, and the replacement of the bridge will have less of an impact on water flow and maritime organisms, etc.
Organism, I don't know, I don't know. Good evening to all of you. It's Friday. It's Friday evening, of course, and we say, thank God it's Friday. I see all you beautiful people already setting the stage to rock and roll for a program. You know, the usual thing. We don't beg you guys to share the link. We have never done that. We don't believe in doing that. And so, but we appreciate when you do share the link. We do appreciate that, right? Well, this evening, guess what? I know every night we are distracted, right? Every single night we are distracted. The orgasm, all sorts of things, man. These guys are nuts. Are these the folks who are running the country? You know, look, let's put things into perspective, man. And ask, this is a serious question. Are these the folks who are running the country? How the heck are you going to sit there? But then again, we can understand. Look into the eyes. Look at other people. Look at those so-called journalists, and some of them might be legitimate indeed. But look at them and the lone female in that audience. You're not looking at her, but you're looking at a particular male in the front row who is always with them. You know, I'm not going to call the names and OZ or whatever their name. I don't know their names, but he's looking straight at the guy when he said orgasm.
Of an existing project, and the replacement of the bridge will have less of an impact on water flow and maritime organisms, etc.
Water flow. Notice what's happening there, right? Water flow. Okay. You know, I know some of you, it's your Sabbath and everything, and sometimes the mind, you know what I mean? It's just the mind sometimes how you want to interpret that, right? And he's talking about maritime, he's talking about water flow, and right after water flow, look at him. Water flow, boom, orgasm, water flow. I mean, I don't know what's happening. Good evening to all of you. It's the 24th day of September, right? It's a beautiful evening, man. Every night we're spoiled. Every night uncertainty, water flow, and then orgasm, and everything. What is happening with these guys? Look, There's a reason why our executive producer and the operator, if Lemon can put that clip up of late Forbes Burnham, president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. I mean, what has the presidency turned into now, man? Any, I don't know. What has that turned to? Even Megan underneath the clock at Stabroek Market can do a better job than these guys. I'm serious. Take a look at this. But before we go there, guess what? We have the shadow Foreign Affairs Minister is with us this evening, Member of Parliament, Amanza Walton Desir. She is going to be with us in maybe a couple of minutes from now, but I have some questions for her. I really do, because Guyana is in shambles. Regardless of what Irfan Ali is saying, that it has returned in terms of respectability on the world scene. That is a lie, a major, major lie. We know that because Irfan Ali and these guys do not believe in the truth. And so when they sit and they talk, you know, you can't expect anything proper coming out of their mouth. You just can't. And I'm seeing some of you guys doing the math. You're putting things together. They go together, Mark. This is what Turner is saying, water flow. And, these folks, seriously, these folks, just a distraction, a total distraction. I don't know. You guys, honestly, sometimes I don't know how to begin this program. I honestly just don't know how to begin this program. Yep, I'm getting some messages from our operator, and we are waiting the arrival of the Honorable Member of Parliament, Amanza Walton Desir. There's something about that name. Something about that name that I like. Whenever I'm pronouncing it, mind you, right? No married time here or anything like that. Married time. You know, Amanza Walton Desir. Hi, good evening. All right, so we're waiting for the Member of Parliament to hop in the studio with us. Tony Hack is asking me a question. Tony, how on earth do you expect for me to answer this question, man? Seriously. How do you expect me to answer this question? And here it is. Tony Hack is asking, Mark, ask her what happened to boots on the ground. You got to ask Aubrey Norton, my friend. He was on earlier. We did a midday show where we took to task at a quick response to the nonsense coming out of Irfan Ali's mouth, and followed by Orgasm by Jack Dale, right? So maybe sometime next week I will have Aubrey Norton and some of the other guys to be on, and then I'll be able to ask them about boots on the ground. I know a lot of you are talking, a lot of you want boots on the ground. I want boots on the ground too. In fact, I want more than just boots on the ground, right? Maritime. Let's go. We are told that Miss Amanza Walton Desir, the Honorable Member of Parliament, is in studio with us. And our executive producer says that she is looking as sharp as ever. And you're going to see her. Just give us 30 seconds. I want to go back to this here, and it's an embarrassment, another embarrassment. Here goes.
Of an existing project, and the replacement of the bridge will have less of an impact on water flow and maritime organisms, etc.
You know, sometimes I don't know whether to laugh, sometimes I don't know whether to cry or whatever. But what I do know is that this is a very serious program. We talk about issues. These guys are distraction, man. I'm serious about that. You know, and sometimes we just have to wonder about the uncertainty of Guyana. That's Irfan Ali's word, uncertainty. Many of you probably were at work earlier when this guy Irfan Ali was talking about they are so concerned about house lots for citizens and all these things. Let me just remind you guys that Irfan Ali was the Minister of Housing, and they did nothing, absolutely nothing to address housing. In fact, when the coalition got into office, there were how many? Over 50 or 60,000 plus applications. Nothing was done under Irfan Ali's tenure there as Minister of Housing. But you know what? It is the coalition that computerized that system. They were, in terms of, in the process of completing everything so that citizens can have easy access to applications and to follow their applications online. And you know, the sad thing is, I heard Irfan Ali attempted to take credit for that. They take credit for a lot of things. But one of the things they're not going to take credit for is this beautiful woman with us this evening, who happens to be the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs. I hope they don't take credit for you, Honorable MP Amanza Walton. Good evening. Your microphone, please. We can't get you. Your microphone.
Sorry about that, Mark. Good evening. No, that credit belongs purely to Joy and Ovid Walton. That's it.
Let me ask you this to begin with. Good to see you. How have you been?
I have been okay. I've been well, all things considering. We're trying to stay engaged and to keep up the fight. It gets discouraging at times, but we can't give up. The alternative is unthinkable, so we have to continue.
The alternative is indeed unthinkable. And sometimes when you sit, and as human beings, we do sometimes get discouraged.
Not the least orgasmic.
Sometimes we do get discouraged as human beings. When you're in your quiet moment, what discourages you sometimes?
The level of immaturity of our politics. That is my greatest concern. And the fact that we seem to believe it because we support a particular administration that we can't call them out when they're doing something that is inimical to the interests of Guyanese. I think that is my biggest worry, that we are so divided as a people that we just can't call wrong and give credit where credit belongs. And unless we are able to, as a people, mature from that, I'm afraid that we are headed down a slippery slope. It's not that the politicians can't rescue Guyana. It is the people of Guyana who will have to rescue Guyana, because for as long as I say this, cognizant that I'm labeled now a politician, but as long as the people of Guyana continue to condone justices that you see, depending on who it is committed against, and we are in a dangerous place, Mark, but we are in an opportune place as well, because we have the choice of saying, look, this is enough, we're not going to do this anymore and turn this thing around, or we will continue, and to continue along this path for sure is complete disaster.
I totally get what you're saying. If you're now joining us, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, is with us this evening, Amanza Walton Desir. And you said then that you're now being described as a politician. You never envisioned this, or have you envisioned getting involved in exactly what you're doing, working for the people?
This was not, I've always been about serving people. I've never thought about it, though, in the form of politics. And of course, the who know me know how I got involved, and the role my mom played in motivating me to get into Parliament and so on. So no, this was not a part of my life's plan. But when purpose calls, and when the divine has other plans for your life, you can't fight against that.
Absolutely. The divine has plans for your life. You can't fight against that. We see that you're not fighting against that. But what you have done earlier today, I spoke with you briefly via text, and you said you were out meeting the people. You were somewhere on the East Coast. What exactly were you guys out doing, ma'am?
No, not on the East Coast. I was in Isla Penitence.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
We were there to, my team and I, we were there to deliver some supplies and items to the Clark sisters. Their house was gutted by a fire a few days ago, and so we were able to get some donations of mattresses and household items and kitchen utensils and some groceries and so on, just to be able to help them to get back on their feet. There are people, we don't expect that the government will come quickly to their aid, and so we have a duty to make sure that once we can help, that we do help. And so we're just on the ground there, and I'm making a public pitch. They are rebuilding. These are two sisters that lost their houses, their individual homes, and so they're in the process of rebuilding. And so they're asking for donations for building material and so on, because they literally lost everything. They weren't able to save anything, and so every little helps. And we'll continue to do what we can to help our people.
Well, congratulations, and I'm glad that you guys were out there to reach out to the family members, those sisters, and so forth. And whatever we can do here at 107.1 FM, we'd love to do that by way of promoting maybe their numbers and their story. Maybe I'll have them on over the weekend or sometime early next week to talk about that.
Let's be happy to arrange that.
Yeah. Let's move on. Lots of things happening. Lots and lots of things happening. Guyana is in a state of what we say uncertainty. Yeah. I know you want to smile. It's okay.
Mark, I'm still reeling from all of that,
How does that make you feel when the person who sits there in that seat, the seat of the presidency, lots of controversy and mispronunciations and all these things. How does that make you feel? A simple word like uncertainty. He is mistaken.
I am deeply, listen, it is embarrassing, Mark, and let's call a spade a spade. I see people making excuses. Oh, he was born and raised in Guyana. Well, so was I. And so there's no excuse. The reality is that the world over has become very used to a particular level of scholarship from Guyanese when we stand to speak on the world stage. And for those of us who don't know, Guyana was once renowned for having some of the most brilliant minds, for example, in the diplomatic arena. We produced the Sir Sridhat Ramphals, the Lionel Locus, the Kami Ram Sarups, and the judge on the
Rashli Jackson.
The Shahabuddins. We produced the Rashli Jacksons and the Ronald Austin Sr. and the Carl Greenwiches of this world. So when you see that the standards, not to mention, you may not like LFS Burnham, but he was probably one of the greatest orators to live. And so you are accustomed, and Guyanese people deserve a particular caliber of representation. And so when you see that, and when you understand that this is how the people of the world judge you by the leader that you send to the UN, yeah, it's
I know how you feel exactly.
Far from orgasmic, let's put it that way.
I got you exactly how you feel. Somebody mentioned, and thank you so much, Minette Backus mentioned Fred Wills also.
Fred Wills. Wills,
I don't know. Are you in touch with your counterpart, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who probably is no stranger to you, Mr. Todd?
No, and in fact, I intend to approach him because I am curious as to why the opposition has not been invited to the last few meetings that they had on the Venezuela issue, and so I'll be contacting you very soon. So, Toddy, if you're listening, we'll be coming to you for answers, because
why should this, Honorable MP? Why should this be the case that you have to sit on a program to reach out to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in terms of this crisis with Venezuela that's raising its head again? It should be the other way around. I recall maybe it was late last year.
But this is the PPP that we're dealing with. And we keep making the point that they do not care about Guyana. They do not care about Guyanese. They are of the view that they have it locked and that they don't need help, and they're not willing to admit that they need help because, as you can see, they're blundering badly. And what is happening is because Jagdeo being the transactional person that he is, Maduro is now pressing for dialogue again, because remember, Jagdeo was willing to dialogue. It has to be recalled that it was the APNUFC government that took this matter to the step that it is at now, for a definitive resolution at the international court. And so the chickens are coming home to roost. And again, as Guyanese, I keep saying, irrespective of what side of the political divide you belong to, you have to sit up and take notice. Venezuela appears to be very serious. They issued a very stinging statement in response to Irfan Ali's speech at the UNGA, and so we have to sit up and take notice. This, I do not believe that we have begun to process that after years of the Maduro regime, being called an oppressive regime and an authoritarian regime, that now in Venezuela, the two parties are coming together. And one of their main rallying points is that the Essequibo belongs to Venezuela. Meanwhile, today they issued a statement that ended with the son of uh, Venezuela is born in the Essequibo. That is what their official statement said. And so, whilst we here continue to be divided along these political and ethnic lines, there are moves being made to take over a third of our country. And so, Mark, we have to wake up. We, as Guyanese, we have to wake up and realize what is at stake. And I keep saying that Jagdio and his Jagabats will hop on the plane and they will leave, because they have homes all over the world. They have, their children are overseas and so on. And so they do not have a vested interest as much as the ordinary working class Guyanese man and woman, as much as they do. So, we can only sound our voices. We can only raise the alarm. We can only continue to say to our people, look, pay attention. This is happening. Let us be focused. Let us not be distracted. A lot of what is happening here are distractions. The PPP, I always say, governs by attrition. They wear you down to the point that you are consumed with bread and butter issues, and so you cannot even pay attention to what is happening. That is what is happening.
And they do that. They're quite good at doing that. So
Absolutely.
we know their tricks. But you are correct, Madam MP, that even the Venezuelan opposition and the government, the Maduro government, have been enemies. Maduro has jailed a lot of the opposition members and so forth. But here it is on this issue of the Guyana Essequibo, Venezuela Essequibo controversy. They come together as one. Mr. Irfan Ali spoke about coming together as one, but yet, according to what you're saying, they have not reached out at all. We hope that Mr.
They had reached out, but I am aware that there have been meetings that the opposition ought to have been a part of that we've been removed from. And so I'm not going to sit here and pretend that all is hunky-dory. Look, on the issue of Guyana's sovereignty and on the issue of our territorial integrity, there is little distance between the government and the opposition on that. What the PPPC regime is doing, however, is making it very difficult to promote these feelings of nationalism and national pride and national interest. Irrespective of what side of the political divide Venezuelans find themselves on, they rally around one common thing: Essequibo is ours. And Mark, we have to add in the same breath that it is therefore now very important that we monitor the influx of Venezuelans into Guyana. We know that the PPPC wants to use them to pad the voters list. But what that is doing is allowing thousands of people to settle in an area that they believe from birth belongs to them. They have 24 million people. One of their small towns can outnumber all of the Guyanese. Do we understand what we are doing? Does the PPPC regime understand? Or do they? It's either they don't understand or they don't care. It is only one of two options.
They just don't understand and they just don't care at all. If you're now joining us, no stranger to you guys, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Amanza Walton Desir, is with us. I want to, in moving on, because this Venezuela Guyana controversy, border controversy, is with us, and like you rightly said, we are to. It is at a state that is at right now. Sorry, as a result of the APNU AFC government. We've got to remember that. And thank you guys for doing that. Here's a story I want to bring to your attention, Madam MP. It's about a young man. His name is Sean Pike, currently sitting in a jail cell in Moscow, Russia. Not a word from the installed regime about this young man at all. Not a single word. He is in jail right now, not because he has committed any crime, but because of his religion. He's a Jehovah's Witness. He has roots under quarantine. A good guy, someone I knew since a little kid. And before he went off to Russia to study and so forth, he is fluent in Russian. Now, I know that if the AFC or APNU AFC government, if you guys were in office, this issue would have been addressed, especially with you as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. What is your take as Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs on this particular issue?
Well, I can tell you that the matter has been brought to our attention. And so we have taken a decision that we will be engaging the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as is the correct protocol, to inquire of them what steps, if any, have been taken to intervene in this matter of the imprisonment of a Guyanese national overseas. And so that is the first step. Depending on their response, we will take it from there, with a view to possibly engaging the Russian ambassador, etc. But we are aware of the issue. We are taking active steps to get information as to what has been done. And once we are in receipt of that information, we are going to keep pressing. So we want him to know that we have not forgotten him. Unfortunately, we're in opposition, and so there's so much that we can do. But whatever it is that we can do, we will do to ensure that our Guyanese brother is returned safely home and reunited with his family.
All right, with love, but it has been at least 2 weeks since he has been in there, over 2 weeks, and not a word from your counterpart, Mr. Hugh Todd, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Not a word.
They don't care.
But it'll be nice to hear. It'll be nice to hear you what they have to say once you guys in the opposition reach out to them to ask for an explanation.
I'll certainly give you the update as soon as we have one, Mark.
Yeah. In fact, even as we speak, I sent a message to Mr. Hugh Todd on 2 issues. One, meeting on the border issue, and the second one has to do with this very gentleman, Mr. Sean Pike, who is sitting there in a jail cell, a filthy jail cell, in Russia, in Moscow, away from his beautiful family, all because he is a Jehovah's Witness. That's all. That's the only crime. Let's pray for him to be out as early as possible. Moving on, Madam MP. Earlier at the press conference, Mr. Irfan Ali talked about the repair of damage done to the foundation of democracy. Break that down. What exactly is Irfan Ali talking about there?
I couldn't know what Irfan Ali is speaking about. The man is a bumbling embarrassment of a president, and so you can't ask me to unravel what is in Irfan Ali's mind. Um, what I gather is that he was talking about elections. And like I said, the fact that the PPPC has to harken back to hotly contested elections as if democracy is about this one event and not about, the way that they govern says a lot, says a lot. And so they have nothing to be proud of. They are the most undemocratic government or regime to have governed Guyana. You can recall that their first order of business when they got into the National Assembly was to take back the financial independence of the constitutional agencies. So what the David Granger administration had done is that we had set in place that entities like the Judicial Service Commission, Police Service Commission, all of these constitutional committees had the power to determine their budget and their work plan. The first order of business of the PPPC regime was to reverse that using their one seat majority. So when Irfan Ali stands up to talk about the foundations of democracy, he certainly must not understand what he is talking about.
Doesn't understand exactly what he's talking about, and even during that so-called press conference, at that time he was speaking. It was the funeral of Mr. Orrin Boston out there in Dartmouth, Essequibo, of which some of your colleagues attended today. Mr. Irfan Ali talks about the rule of law and the respect for rule of law. Here's a young man that was murdered by a member of the SWAT team, and in the wee hours of the morning, murdered in front of his wife. And Mr. Ali is talking about respect for the rule of law, talking about the family members. They haven't reached out, he hasn't called, he hasn't visited, or nothing. Hypocrisy?
Irfan Ali doesn't care. I like I said last night when I was on Sherrod's show, they are the epitome of hypocrisy. And for him to sit there and deny extrajudicial killings, you know what Irfan Ali and Barjak they are attempting to do? They're attempting to rewrite our history. Not because they care that we know differently, but they are attempting to rewrite history for the voters that are going to be coming of age the next elections. And because they subscribe to Goebbels and his theory of propaganda, they believe that if they repeat these lies often enough, it will somehow be embedded in the minds of the people and it will become true. And so they are attempting to rewrite the history of the PNC, the PPPC, because they want to um, sanitize themselves for the voters who are coming up for the tens of thousands of young people who will be coming of age at the next elections, as well as I think they're attempting to gaslight Afro-Guyanese into anger and rage. The PPP believe that they're smart. You know what they're doing is pretending to be something that they're not, to enrage people. And so when people get upset and they start rising up here, yeah, well, they are this and that. But Mark, I think we are dealing with a generation that we really don't care what they describe us as and what they say. We will not live under their oppressive regime, and we will do what we have to do to make sure they are exposed at every turn and that they are eventually unseated. They're bad for this country. They are bad for Guyana. They are bad for our environment. And we cannot leave a PPPC legacy to this country. It will be a disaster.
A total disaster indeed, and this explains how the country is currently in a state of political uncertainty. The Honourable Member of Parliament, Amanza Walton Desir, is with us this evening. And for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, uncertainty is not my word. It is the word of the man who sits there as the president of Guyana, who has been installed as the president of Guyana. And you are correct. Young people and Guyanese are smarter than that. They're not going to be brainwashed by the PPP and their propaganda. Not at all. What's happening? The last time, which was probably early part of this year, we heard about the electoral reforms and all these things and the Republican Institute's involvement. All of those things seem to be quiet about that now. Any word? Any update?
We have no updates, none, zero. They have gone quiet. We are not even sure that they will be having local government elections this year. And it wouldn't surprise me if we don't. The PPPC has mastered the art of putting interim management committees into the local democracy system to be able to control and to manipulate it. The people are control freaks and they do not subscribe to the issue and the thought of local governance and of people in their communities governing and making decisions for themselves through their locally elected leaders. They are opposed, radically opposed to that idea. And so you will see them trying to frustrate local government. You will see them trying to frustrate the NDCs and the city councils and so on, using the mechanism of the local government commission.
At every level, they're doing that. They don't want local government elections to be held. And there's that. When you walk the streets, when you go, and when I say when you walk the streets, I really do mean when you go out and you meet the people, whether in the markets or wherever. What are some of the words or sentiments being expressed by the people in terms of their frustration of the lack of democracy in Guyana? We are not going to have local government elections held this year at all. What are some of the sentiments, Madam MP?
It's hard. Things are hard. It's difficult for us to feed our families. It's difficult for us to pay our bills. COVID has already inflicted such damage, and we still are unable to recover. Now you have to deal with an unjust government. People, Mark, it breaks your heart to hear. We were at the market the other day, and this woman she's a vendor, single mother. She comes out at 5:30 in the morning, and she makes $800 a day is her profit. And so that is just enough for her to get home and to get back the next day to try to eke out a living. And you know what absolutely tears me apart is that the government does not care. This installed regime doesn't care. If you listen to that press conference today and you hear Barrett Jagdeo trying to refocus the discussion from the price of Bora to all of the grand opportunities that are existing in Guyana, you understand where the mind of this government is. The price of Bora is important, 5% of Guyanese, but they don't care for the 95%. They govern for the 5% that are their friends and that are their cronies and that they absolutely govern for. They don't care about anybody else. And I think what is happening is that we have to begin to educate our people, Mark. A lot of people say, oh, y'all need to hit the ground, you need to hit the ground, you need to hit the ground. But it's important that when you hit the ground, that you have people behind you. It is important that you hit the ground. And so I believe that we have to educate our people so they have an understanding as to why they need to be involved in the struggle and why they need to absolutely stand up. You go and you hear, oh, irrespective of whatever government is in place, we still got to work anyway. Yes, this is true. But a government that cares about you will create an enabling environment that you can see the fruits of your labor. Whereas the other one that we are having right now doesn't care enough to give you a proper salary increase. And so this is, I think we have to continue to hit the bottom houses. I think we have to continue to go out into the communities and speak to our people and create the necessary mindset shifts, the paradigm shifts that will facilitate us successfully unseating the PPPC, you know?
Thank you so much, Honorable Amanza Walton Desir, Member of Parliament, Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs. I'm smiling because my next question, I'm going to ask you that question. I'm going to sit back in my chair, and you can take as long as you wish to answer that question.
What are you up
Let
to,
me,
Mark?
and let me assure you, it has nothing to do with you and the folks out there on number 51 Leeds Village under quarantine, the Johnsons and all of them.
Okay,
That's
okay. Because
nothing
you know
else.
they're watching, eh?
Oh yeah, they always watch. They're lovely people, Dwayne and all of his beautiful sisters, all of them, including a favorite one of mine.
Yeah.
I want you to listen to this clip, and then I'll get into the question to you.
Of the government. Don't shout at me.
I'm sorry,
Making
wrong.
the short video for send to you and the viewers and listeners. I'll know we punishing in Guyana. Punishing. Rice gone up, sugar gone up, flour gone up, cost of living just gone up, gas gone up from 3,400 to 3,800. Real hungry days under this installed PPP government. Real hungry days we gone back to. Guyanese? Oh! Real hungry days. Real hungry days.
So sad. Real hungry days under the PPP, the installed PPP regime. And now here's my question, Honorable MP. There are a lot of folks on social media and maybe on the ground in Guyana who believe that the coalition, now the opposition, should be doing more in terms of confronting the PPP. You touched briefly on it, that when you hit the streets and you look back, there should be people behind. But recently we are hearing boots on the ground. People are calling for boots on the ground. How do you respond to the frustration of a heck of a lot of people who do believe that boots should be on the ground to confront the installed PPP regime?
I would say that, like I said, I think it is a process. I think, Mark, if we want to be very incisive about this issue, last week or the week before the last, you saw a number of protests. You saw NGOs, people who didn't have nothing to do with social media, with political parties. They were out on the Square of the Revolution protesting. And if you go and you see what they say on social media, you're seeing that they decry the fact that we have a lot of people calling for a lot of things on social media. And when the time comes, people do not show up. Now, I am not saying one way or the other that this or this isn't so. But I'm saying let us be fair and let us review the concerns. And listen to me, I'm not even going to use political parties. I'm going to use the fact that NGOs, people who didn't have a political agenda, have been calling for boots on the ground, and people, for a number of reasons, have not been responding. And so I think we have to really take a very honest look at ourselves. Can we do more? Absolutely. But I said it last night that it is Guyanese that have to save themselves. I believe that we, as the opposition, we can do more. You can always do more. But I believe that I will be so I'll be deceitful to say that the people of Guyana don't have a role to play in this as well. It has always been, Mark. When you look at revolutions all across the world, you have always seen that it has always been a lot of coordination. The unions, for example, have always been involved. Labor. The reality is that if the GPSU was a strong union, the public servants can shut this country down. Nothing moving. Why is that not happening? And it is not about laying the blame, but it is about looking at things objectively and truthfully so that we can make informed decisions. Because we have to act clinically, we have to breathe, we have to be precise in what we do. I am concerned that the unions that have the most legitimate and legal means to effect change in our society have not been out militating for an increase for their public servants. I am concerned that public servants have not yet said to their union leaders, if you will not represent us, we will unseat you. We're talking about shutting the country down. How are we doing that? It is something that has to be thought out. It is something that has to be methodical. And if we wish to be honest with ourselves, we will admit that those entities, institutions, and people who can play a significant role, if all the public servants decide enough is enough, 2 budgets, you haven't given us an increase. Patrick Yard, you're sitting on your hands. It is either you represent us or you get out. We will see change. It's easy to say, oh, the opposition is the opposition. Yes, do not mistake what I'm saying. The opposition has a role to play in providing leadership. But the people must realize that ultimately the power lies with them to hold us as politicians accountable. Not a peep from Patrick Yard, or we writing letters and so on about 2 budgets, including the one they tout as the largest in the history of Guyana. And public servants are have to think about feeding their family or getting a passage to get to work the next day. So if we're going to address the problem, let us address this holistically. Let us not just lay blame at the feet of a political entity or whatever. We, the people, have a role to play in liberating ourselves. And so I am looking to hear the public servants call on their respective unions to say, you know what, we pay you union dues every damn month. You need to step up to the plate now. You need to apply pressure to the government. And they must ask themselves why Patrick Yard and them are sitting on their hands and twiddling their thumbs and not doing anything. That is the kind of incisive thinking that we have to do in order to be able to unseat this government.
All right. Well, we did see that in 1997 when the unions were very strong. But I'd like to single out the General Secretary, and not because he's my friend, but Lincoln Lewis, I believe, has been very active as well, and members of the Guyana Trades Union Congress. Unfortunately, Patrick Yard is fast asleep on the wheel, maybe because he's been there for 30 plus years. And I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and decide on the leadership of the Guyana Public Service Union, other than to say that maybe it's time that Patrick Yard pack his bag and go. However, there might be folks who are saying that members of parliament, all of the members of parliament have been elected to sit there and stand up and represent the interest of the people. Of course, there are some of you guys who are doing that. But what do you have to say about the criticism that it appears as though the members of parliament, quite a few of them, are fast asleep and aren't doing enough? How do you respond to that criticism?
I would say this. I think we as a people have to begin to understand that not everybody is going to be on the forefront. And Bar Jagdeo made this very clear. And we often give Bar Jagdeo too much credit without really listening to what he has said. He spoke about the engine room and so on, and being, in the back, and so on and so forth, and doing strategy. There are a number of our MPs who they may not be on the forefront, but they are working. Yes, there are some of us at the forefront, more visible than others, but I know the amount of work that we do, um, you know, in terms of the background work that we need to do. A lot of our MPs are dedicated to doing a lot of work and writing, etc., um, to the international communities, and so we are few. We are few, but we are giving our level best. And so I want the people to understand that we are representing them. We are just that, members of parliament. And as it suggests, our forte, or our arena is the National Assembly. And we are going to continue to use that forum to represent the people in the manner that we have taken an oath to do. But again, the people of Guyana and our people and our own people are very good at holding us accountable. And we need to keep that same energy when it comes to keeping the PPPC accountable. I think many times we are very hard on our own, and we do not keep that same energy when it comes to our political opponents. And so we will continue to represent, we will continue to go into the communities, we will continue to bring information so that we can institute and effect that paradigm change that our people need to have in order to stand up. Mark, and I'm sure the Jagabats are tuning in, but I'm talking to our people now. You want action. MP, these people are doing X, Y, Z. Okay, this person, that person, that person. Okay, well, could you give us the facts? Because we will need to. Oh, but I can't give you this because I'm afraid they will victimize me. And my next question is, what worse can they possibly do? What else can they possibly do to you? They've already fired you. They've already stunted your promotion. Like what? And so a lot of our people need to arise from this state of slumber that we're in. And it is the role of leadership to inspire them to so do. I'm not saying that it's not. But I'm saying, Mark, we need to stop and take a hard look at ourselves and to understand that the PPP has been masterful at silencing the gatekeepers example of the unions and all of the bodies that can effect meaningful and lasting change. And unless we want to call a spade, we will be here for the next year talking and criticizing each other while the PPPC runs amok in this country. These are the hard realities that we have to face as a people.
All right, here, guess what? We're looking at the time. The Honorable MP has had a busy day, but we're not yet finished with her. We still have about another hour more with her here.
What?
Well, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back with two other questions I have for the Honorable MP.
Okay.
We'll be right back with more of Straight Up.
Awesome.
Guyana, and on this auspicious day, the managers and staff of 107.1 FM would like to extend to all Amerindians a happy Amerindian Heritage Month 2021. Amerindians reflect the lifestyle, beliefs, and way of life of people who are born in an Amerindian village. We here at 107.1 FM are part of the process of preserving the Amerindian heritage and to be the source of reference. Happy Amerindian Heritage Month 2021, Guyana.
All right, so I'll leave the best question for last. Let's get to this issue because it's troublesome in the country, the way in which the installed regime is handling the vaccine and the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw under the coalition about 23 or 24 persons died. Today it's almost 800, almost 800. They have no policies, none whatsoever. They're not working with the opposition. The Minister of Health has 3 advisors, 3 of them, two of whom are personal, former ministers of health. They're getting paid millions of dollars and nothing at all. Today at the press conference, Mr. Irfan Ali is talking about a 3rd dose of the Sputnik V, when in fact 80,000+ persons are yet to receive the 2nd dose of the very Sputnik V. What is your take on this whole COVID-19 and the vaccine controversy?
Mark, I want to state from the outset that I personally, the party that I represent, the political organization that I represent, we are not against vaccination. Let me make that very, very clear. We continue to insist when we meet, when we interact with people, that you research, do your research, whatever information we can provide to assuage and to persuade people that, look, maybe this is the best thing for you, we do that. So let me say that from the outset. You will recall, Mark, that when we learned in the National Assembly, and let me say this, you recall that we learned about the COVID-19 vaccine when Parliament reconvened after about a 90-day hiatus. During this 90 days, the government, without the scrutiny of the National Assembly, procured 200,000 doses of Sputnik V vaccine from a middleman, Al Maktoum. So all of this was done under the cover of darkness, without the light of parliamentary scrutiny. When Parliament reconvened, you will recall that it was after they started administering these vaccines, Parliament was reconvened, and it was then that we learned that not only were these vaccines not approved by the WHO, we learned that it was procured through this middleman, Al Maktoum, and not directly from the Russian government. When we learned that, we raised the alarm and we were labeled as anti-vaxxers. Oh, they had the world to say. And now you see that we are being absolved because now the WHO has halted the approval process for Sputnik V vaccines. They have halted it. And so Guyanese are left, those, and including me, the hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of us who took the Sputnik vaccine, we are left wondering, well, what do we do next? Because suddenly Frank Anthony and his 3 advisors, who in all truth, when you had them up together, probably come up to half. They can't fathom what it is that the CDC is saying. And so you see the government bungling every step of the way. And what ticks me off is that they have the gall to go on the international stage to upbraid world leaders who they say are not coming together to solve the crisis, this COVID issue. We have written to them asking to be on the national committee. We recognize that the majority of Guyanese don't trust the government. We said to the government, look, if we come on board, have a collaborative approach, then maybe us being united on this issue will reduce vaccine hesitancy. They have refused. They have refused. And so this is why we are where we are today. And then the government bungled the message. They created the impression that as long as you were vaccinated, you could not get COVID or transmit COVID. And the science has clearly now disproven that. And so, because of the misinformation, the disinformation, their attempts to divide Guyanese into vaccinated and unvaccinated and to put the population at war with each other, the people of Guyana do not trust them. I know you want to tell people what? About a third dose of Sputnik? You have to be out of your mind.
Have to be out of your mind indeed. And we see the sort of the way in which they're presenting it there to the United Nations as though things are all honky-dory in Guyana. But I'm sure those people that they're speaking to got the facts already, that this is this very regime that when they were in the opposition, they were saying that the COVID-19 pandemic is coronavirus is a hoax, a political hoax.
They said that, something invented by the AP and UAFC to hold on to power. And I listened with great amusement. You know, it always amuses me when the PPPC gets on the international stage to talk about the government or the people of Guyana being held hostage for 5 months. The recount came about as a result of a signed agreement between two men. So the two of us cannot sit down and agree to a process and then one of us claiming that you're holding me hostage to something that I signed to.
Well, that's known. That's their propaganda. They've always been like that.
Right.
They have held Guyana hostage for 20-something years.
And you know what, Mark? They believe that we should somehow, we have nothing to be ashamed about. I think it is clear by now that a regime change was effected in Guyana and that the PPP is in office based on fraudulent votes. And so our people have nothing to be ashamed about. Okay? We have nothing to be ashamed about. You have 47 boxes without document, dead voters, absentee voters, and they have the temerity to say what? PPP needs to take several seats. So we're not going to stop and we're waiting for Parliament to start back because we're waiting for them. We are waiting for them. Let the 10th of October make case and come because we're going to
let Parliament start back, but the Parliament hitting the streets, talking to the people also. But I got your point, Honorable MP.
Mark, I keep saying this to our people. We have to fight the war on all fronts. It is important that we go to Parliament because there are certain things that have to be entered into the records, or else the PPP will attempt to do what they did today, to rewrite history, to say that, oh, there were no extrajudicial killings. Thank God that we could go back to the Hansard and see these things. But if we were not in the National Assembly, it would not be there. And so I want to encourage our people to desist from decrying the usefulness of Parliament. As our democracy matures, Parliament will take on an increasingly important role. It is not the only front that the battle has to be fought on, but it is a necessary tool in the fight.
One of the things that I'd love to see when you guys return there to Parliament on the 10th of October is to question them about this secret deal, this middleman deal, and this Sputnik. We know that hundreds of millions of dollars have already been spent, taxpayers' money, and somebody's getting the bulk of that. And yet we don't know whether the Sputnik V is the real deal at all. Plans for you guys to confront them on that?
We don't, Mark. We don't. And you have a high incidence of partly vaccinated people dying. And these people are not partly vaccinated because of their fault. They're partly vaccinated because the government has failed to provide the second dose. These are not the things that they're talking about. But they use their propaganda machinery. They use their mouthpieces to blast anybody who seems to criticize them as anti-vax and so on and so forth. But we will continue to expose them. We will continue to speak the truth and bring the information to the people.
All right, well said, Member of Parliament, Amanza Walton Desir.
So I have to go now?
No, we're not done with you. We're not at all. Because I'm one of them who, I believe that I want to see my MPs them out there even more. And I know that our MPs are human beings as well. And so I'm glad that you're able to take time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. I am making up this evening for all the other nights that you weren't on. Give us a few minutes more. Isaac Davis, good evening to you, sir. Isaac is originally from Alnes Village under quarantine. He lives in the US.
Okay.
I went to Alnes Primary with him. Isaac is saying here, Mr. Davis, good evening. Here is what he's saying. The data presented to the public is questionable and is skewed to present a certain narrative, the COVID-19 data. What do you have to say about what Mr. Isaac is saying here now, Davis?
I can understand why he would come to that conclusion. I can
Pardon me?
certainly understand why he would come to that conclusion. Because look, like I said, you know, the government, oh God, Mark, when you are dealing with a public health crisis the way we are, it is important that you have the trust of your population. And the PPPC does not understand that with information so readily available, you will be caught in a lie within hours. Stop lying to the people of Guyana. Call the opposition in. Look, we have bungled this. We need your help. We have to stem the tide of this pandemic. But as Bar Jagdeo said, people have to die. And maybe that is their policy. People have to die.
People have to die. Even, I'm not going to mention the mistake he made earlier, but that's okay. At that very press conference, before we go, Mr. Irfanali is talking about strong leadership, and Jack Deere chimed in too as well, in terms of climate change, a strong leadership, the environment, and all these different things, flaring. The impression that they give is that they have things under control. What is your take on all of that?
Mark, you know, I listened with distress this afternoon at Jagdeo just spewing lies upon lies to the Guyanese people. And you know, I was listening and I made some notes. It's the lawyer in me. We always making notes and so on. And when you hear the man, for example, you know, one of the things that stood out to me, he was making yeah, maybe we should just remove him from
All right,
there.
let me just apologize to you and our listeners. I'll remove him.
Thank you. Right. So the point that I was making is that when you hear him talk about this cradle to the grave waste management, as if it is a new concept that he came up with, what stood out to me immediately was that this cradle to the grave waste management was something that was introduced by Vincent Adams, Dr. Vincent Adams, the highly qualified head of the EPA that they got rid of. Because what Exxon was saying is that we will pass our waste off to a third party, a contractor, and that is the end of our responsibility. And what he said was, no, 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 no. You are going to make sure that even your subcontractors dispose of this waste properly. And so Jagder is up there laying claim to something that he cannot, you know, morally take credit for. And so that's the first bit of deception. The second bit of deception is that Jagdeo seeks to reinforce, and again, you know, he's patterned after Goebbels. That is their modus operandi in terms of propaganda. He continues to behave as if the Payara permit is superior to the permits issued under the LISA 1 and LISA 2 under the APNUFC administration. It is a lie. It is a lie. When you look at the provisions as it relates to flaring, what the PPPC has done is given license for Exxon to flare. Listen, I'm not a scientist, but I will say that I have a master's in maritime law. And I will say that my thesis was on offshore drilling and the marine environment. And so I understand one thing. Might not understand all of it, but I understand a couple of things. So when you come to lie to the Guyanese people, I'm going to call you out on it. This thing about dumping of water on Exxon is being allowed, whereas the best practice is to re-inject the water into the reservoir. Exxon is being allowed to dump the water into our oceans. If you understand that that water contains contaminants that can cause irreparable harm to the environment, they are allowing Exxon to dump it into our oceans. It is 3 times hotter, warmer than the water around it. And so they're dumping that, and then they are taking that water mixed with the seawater, and then they are rejecting it, re-injecting it back into the reservoirs. But in the meantime, the best practice is that it should be re-injected without getting into the marine environment. But no, the equipment to do that costs too much. And if Bar Jagdeo wishes to say that I'm misleading the public, I want to say to them that what you need to do to let the Guyanese people know that you're not giving them for a 6 for a 9 is to get an independent review of the Payara permit. And you will see that they have basically sold Guyana up and our environment up creek. This boast that they have collected money for flaring, Mark, is an embarrassment. Exxon under the AP and UFC committed to zero flaring. That is a fact. There were only 3 times that they were allowed to flare: startup, emergencies, and I think the other one was when they were doing maintenance. What the PPP did was, when they got into office, was to corrupt those provisions. So now, startup, if you look at the best practice, you're allowed flaring for 48 hours. The PPP has moved that to 60 days. And again, let them get an independent review of these permits. If they believe that, we're talking of, smoke. They have lied to the Guyanese people. So when Jagdeo said, oh, the Payara permit is materially different, he was not wrong, but he was incomplete. It is comparatively worse. And the people of Guyana and our environment is who will pay for it. Exxon has the capacity to operate in a manner that has minimal impact on our environment. They have the capacity to do it. It will require certain expenditure, but they have the capacity. And so we as the Guyanese people must demand that our environment not be taken so lightly. They have corrupted the government, this polluter pays principle. The idea of the polluter pays principle is that if you damage the environment, you pay for the regeneration, etc., and to remedy the damage. Not if you have money, you could flare how much you want. What the Jagdeo regime, and I call it the Jagdeo regime deliberately, has done is given Exxon, think, well, if you could flare and do what you want, just pay me for it. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And this is the type of treachery that we're dealing with. And they have the brass face to sit there and to mislead Guyanese. And this is why I keep saying, whilst we are being distracted with bread and butter issues, irreparable harm is being done to our environment. Our brothers and sisters up in Region 1 and so on will begin to feel it unless we understand. And Jagdeo and his boys would make off like bandits and be sitting pretty while we are left to deal with a degraded environment. If you look at the way they are running the EPA, you have major projects going on, and there's no environmental impact assessment. That is the process where people are able to make input, information is shared, all of the scenarios are analyzed, and you come out with what is in the best interest of the environment. Jagdeo and his team are bypassing all of that. And Guyanese will be the ones to pay for it. And I keep saying to Guyanese, just like how years ago when he said, we have to build Skeldon or sugar is dead. but sugar is dead because he did build Skeldon. They made off like bandits with it. And guess what? We are still saddled with repaying that debt up to now.
And lots of death. People's eyes are opening even more. Even the cane harvesters are upset. They're frustrated because they see exactly what the PPP has been doing to them. Their eyes are opening, and thank God for that. And thank you so much for
Well, let
your
us
time.
hope that their eyes are open to the point that when it comes to voting for a government that is best for Guyana, they do what is in the best interests of Guyana. Because we have been saying to them, look, allow us to diversify, allow us to take you into the future. Sugar, while we have very strong traditional ties, etc., to it, has to be right sized for it to remain viable, for you to be able to feed your family, for you to be able to live. But you know what? The PPP did that, took that, and did repackage it and say, oh, they're victimizing sugar harvesters because they have a certain ethnicity. Well, they are now beginning to see. They're now beginning to see. And this is what we have to keep encouraging our people. Don't be afraid to criticize your leaders. Don't be afraid to demand more from them.
That is so true. Don't be afraid to criticize your leaders. Don't be afraid to demand more from them. Thank you so much, Madam MP. Before we go, I have a final question for you. We'll take a 30 seconds break. I will be right back.
Of an existing project, and the replacement of the bridge will have less of an impact on water flow and maritime organisms, etc.
Sorry that I had to put you through that again, and our listeners, Madam MP. I really do apologize to you. I honestly do. And now let me ask you this before we go. The PNCR Congress is coming up shortly. Lots of names are being placed out there in terms of folks and their intention to run for the leadership of the People's National Congress reform. We haven't yet heard about your name. We haven't heard you say anything. We don't know what your intentions are. But were you to be nominated for any position, be it the leadership, the chairman, the vice chairman, or whatever, will you, Amanza Walton Desire, accept any nomination?
Mark, let me say this. Like I said to you before earlier in the show, this wasn't a part of my, life's plan. I had other plans in my life, but here I am. And I have taken an oath to serve the people. And I would really want to hear from the people. Your mandate to lead comes from the people. And so if people ask me, to step up and to nominate me to whatever position, I am here to serve. I am here to serve. And so I'm not going to be one that's going to be coy and shy away from it. If the people ask me to do that, it would be an honor. It would be an absolute honor to serve in whatever capacity that I'm asked to. I believe that we have what it takes to lead, the country forward. And so it's not something that we're prepared to shy away from. So I'm not prepared to be coy and to, whatever. If the people believe that I should, I'd be happy to hear from them. Send me a message on my Facebook page. Let me know what you're thinking, and let's take it from there. Let's see where it goes.
So if I were a member of the PNC and I put my hand up, and I say, I nominate Amanza Walton Desire for the leadership, to run for the leadership of the People's National Congress reform, you will accept and throw your hat in the race?
I would if nominated, Mark. I would absolutely do that if nominated. Listen, like I said, I'm not about to play coy and to pretend about it. We absolutely need to continue to take the PPP to task. And if the people of the party believe that this is a capacity that I could serve in and be effective in, it would be my absolute honor. If they don't believe so, then I'll continue to serve as their member of parliament. So those are my 2 cents on that.
Amanza Walton Desir, the Honorable Member of Parliament and Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs. It's always a pleasure to have you on our show here on 107.1 FM. But before you go, your closing remarks, in case I've forgotten to ask you anything, address the people.
Mark, I don't think you've forgotten to ask me anything. But in closing, I will say to our people, look, we are at the crossroads. And whether we want to admit it or not, it is we, the people of Guyana, that have to right this ship. I keep saying, and I've been saying for the last few days, nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. And we have everything that it takes to save ourselves. Look, we come from a long line of ancestors, whether we be East Indians that came as indentured laborers or Africans that were brought here and enslaved. We come from a heritage of people who fought and prevailed against the odds. And so we have what it takes. We just have to decide that we are going to dig deep within ourselves. We are going to put away this for now and for today mentality that sometimes besets all of us, including me. The expediency of the moment and of now can really, impact you in ways that can immobilize you and cause you to be unable to move forward. But if we, as we say in local parlance, ban we belly and decide that we want a better Guyana for our children and for our children's children, there's nothing stopping us. There's absolutely nothing stopping us. And so I would really want to encourage us to start to, speak up courageously, speak up, understanding a couple of things. One, the government can't fire all of the public servants. We do not have the population to sustain them firing all of the public servants. So stand up and speak up. Stand up and speak up. They're governing by, albeit fraudulently, through the votes of the people. You have the power and you have to use it. And so that's my encouragement. The politicians, we who are fighting for you, we can't do it alone. We are but a few of us. But if we stand together, we are unstoppable. And we can demand that the PPPC, for the little time that they have left in government, run this country like a country for the benefit of all Guyanese, not just for their friends and cronies. We can demand and we can insist and we can bring about change. Public servants could just stay home for a week. The whole country shut down. Shut down. And what are they going to do? Send everybody home? And so we want to talk about getting radical, Mark, but sometimes I don't know that we're ready to be as radical as we need to be. We have to bequeath a better Guyana for our children. And we, the people, we got the power and we have to do it. Nobody is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves.
Thank you so much, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Amanza Walton Desir. We appreciate your time here as always. And it has been a very calm hour and a half with you. No fighting up this evening, no nothing, very straightforward. And we appreciate you being here with us. Don't be a stranger. Do come back, even though Guyana is on the...
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Uncertainty. Yes. That's the new word. Have yourself an enjoyable weekend. Thank you so much.
You have a lot of work ahead. Thank you. God bless you and your family and take good care.
Same to you as well. All right. The Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs and Member of Parliament, Amanza Walton Desir. I think she has answered a lot of questions for you. If she is nominated for the leadership of the People's National Congress Reform, she's not going to shy away from that. She says she will accept that nomination and run for the leadership of the People's National Congress Reform. The race is going to be very interesting. I suspect that there will be others throwing their hats in the race once they're nominated. Some of them are not going to sit and wait to be nominated. Of course, if you want to run for any position, then you'll have your people to nominate you. And I'm sensing something. I'm sensing a lot of things. I have 6 senses, actually. 6. I'm sensing it. I'm well organized and organized and all whatever. That was a deliberate mistake. But these guys in the PPP need to go. All of them need to go. Total waste of time. But before I go this evening, here's this woman. Do you guys know her? Margaret Lawrence, a respectable broadcaster, Guyanese broadcaster, has spent years upon years at the Guyana Broadcasting Corporation. Today happens to be her 16th birth anniversary. 16th birth anniversary. Happy birthday to you, Miss Margaret Lawrence. I've had the pleasure of working with her. In fact, she was once my boss. A lot of you didn't know that I worked for a brief period there at the Guyana Broadcasting Corporation. I was in charge of, man in the streets. I was a court reporter. I've been around, and she was one of my bosses at the Guyana Broadcasting Corporation. Happy birthday to you, Margaret Lawrence. May God bless you, and I wish you many, many more birthdays to come. You have given tremendous service to our nation, and we owe you, Margaret Lawrence. 16 years old. 16 years old. And to all of the other folks who are celebrating their birth anniversaries today, happy birthday to all of you, every single one of you. And those of you who are a little under the weather, regardless of what you're going through, my prayers are with you as well, especially those folks at the COVID-19 hospital. Happy birthday to you, Margaret Lawrence. I wish I had a singing voice. I would have been singing for you, but I don't. Happy birthday to you. And to all of our listeners, every single one of you, I wish you a wonderful and a very productive and blessed weekend. Every single one of you. Don't lose hope. Better days are ahead for Guyana. Better days are ahead. Thank you all so much. And thanks to Amanza Walton, the Member of Parliament, for spending her time with us, at least for an hour and a half with us here on 107.1 FM. God bless you all.
It's hard to be at peace with the ones who act so discard. It's hard. Them have a knife in your back and them smile it so broad. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd a shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. I never want to take your glory, Lord. Send your angels to encamp around about me and stand guard. To envy is so easy and to love it is so hard. Let me work for your glory and not for the award. Don't make me ever get caught up in the scream and the applause. And go talk about the blessing and not talk about the Lord. All these things are vanity. I need your reward. Let me be real. Don't put on no facade. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them give me flesh when the crowd a shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Sticks and stones can break my bones and words can harm me. They can harm me. When the evil come against me, you'll protect me. You'll protect me. Father, I need the strength of your son. Cause you know my work is not done. Lord, I need that endurance just to finish this race that I run. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. And help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. You tell me if you stand firm, cause every little plan you have a confirm. I know them evil plan turn. In a darkness, me a the long term. So help me if you deal with the ones that who said them love me when them really don't. Jesus, help me if you deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus,